I really like the way you broke it down into micro, meso, and macro. I think that was a really intelligent way to look at the issue of support groups. And in each of those compartments, I think they were very important messages. So I congratulate you on looking at it that way. It was a very novel way of looking at it, and I learned a lot from that. So looking at the micro, as I recall, I think the leadership is an essential aspect of the success of the support groups. And I've been to different support groups, and I've seen leaders who maybe they come from a business community where they're used to being the true leader and the decision maker, and they're trying to make the decisions for everybody in the crowd. And there have been other support groups where there've been a group of leaders, and I think it's a lot better that way. At least that was my own experience, and I think I read that in your paper as well, that where I think the better, if you will, quote unquote, better support groups, more successful support groups, had more of a committee leadership. So that it wasn't up to one individual who not only would sort of have a lot more influence than perhaps he should be having, but also could tire out by taking on all the responsibility. So that was one message I thought was very strong. In the meso approach or concept, the affiliation is so critically important today because it's a major issue. And you talked about the affiliation with the Cancer Society, the Canadian Cancer Society, versus autonomy or maintaining autonomy as a support group and making your own decisions on educational content and on educational delivery and interactions between individuals and advocacy and all those other aspects. That's a tricky balance. And bringing it forward, I think, was very important. Things have changed since the paper was written and since you made the observations in the paper with Prostate Cancer Canada now and the national groups becoming a little bit more, adhesive, with the national groups becoming more cohesive. So it'll be interesting to see how it plays out. There are some personality issues, some political issues, economic and financial issues, all very, very fascinating. And then at the macro level, I think these groups are important for advocacy, particularly in today's day where there are issues about PSA screening. The large task force are suggesting that maybe we shouldn't be looking for cancer. I think most men in these support groups would disagree, having lived with it. I certainly have my opinions on screening, which are strongly against the recommendations of these task forces. So that whole macro approach is something where I think the support groups across the country can really sink their teeth into and make some impact. I think from a sustainability point of view, it's very important that these support groups are sustained. There's issues of membership, there's issues of consistency, there's issues of messaging, of what messaging to give, and then of course there's the economic or financial side of it. Who's going to support them? Who's going to provide the dollars so that they can rent a room or provide coffee, tea, or cookies or whatever, and give men the availability so that it's there, and public relations, announcements, and so forth. I know that there are some groups in this country that have a lot more money than others, and you see the email broadcasts, you see the mail-outs, the newsletters, and those groups are very different than the small group in small town British Columbia where there's just a small number of individuals who want to get together and share their experiences and learn a little bit more about the disease. So, I think sustainability is critical. If you have too many large groups, the small groups may not benefit from that. On the other hand, if they're linked properly, as you mentioned in the affiliation aspect of the meso concept, then it may be helpful to the smaller groups that the stronger, bigger groups can help them with content, perhaps via internet, other social media, communication methodologies, and so on.